Welcome to the On the Line with TBR. I'm Dan Denea. Today, I'll be speaking with Senator James Gaughran, who was elected to represent District 5 this fall. Senator Gaughran is a member of a number of committees in the state Senate. He's the local government chair. He's a member of the Corporations, Authorities, and Commissions. He's a member of the Energy and Telecommunications Committee. He's a member of Higher Education, Investigations and Government Operations, Racing, Gaming, and Wagering. At the age of 26, Senator Gaughran was elected to the Huntington Town Board, becoming the youngest councilman in the history of Huntington. Senator Gaughran is also a graduate of Stony Brook with a JD from Hofstra. Senator Gaughran lives in Northport and has a son and a daughter. Senator Gaughran, thank you for joining us.
And a wife named Carol.
And a wife named Carol. I'm sorry, I did not mean to.
That's all right.
So,
thank you for having me.
I know that there's been a lot of conversation. I'm going to get right to it here with Governor Cuomo. I know there's been a lot of conversation among Democrats about what to do going forward. There's very serious accusations about sexual harassment, and there are also some considerable worries about accusations about hiding any information related to nursing home treatment and nursing home deaths in connection with COVID. I'm actually going to start with the nursing home issues. Are those substantial accusations? Are those worrisome to you? Tell me your reaction to.
Oh, absolutely. We are very concerned about them. And the state Senate is actually going to be holding hearings in addition to hearings that already have been held. And, we are absolutely going to get to the bottom line of what happened with the administration and what happened in the nursing homes. And it is very disturbing, the reports of changes to records, of misrepresentations. It's obviously, being reviewed now by the United States Attorney's Office. So it's very serious, and we obviously, there needs to be a full investigation there, but without interfering, with their investigation, we are going to be continuing to as a Senate, looking at this, as deeply and as carefully as possible, and making sure that people are held accountable who need to be held accountable. Be that as it may, we also are doing this and have been taking other steps to make sure that we're correcting issues moving forward. Now, first I want to say when COVID started, there was no roadmap, there was no rule book, people didn't know what it was. There were mistakes made by everybody, people in government, people in hospitals, people in nursing homes. There was a lot of scrambling around, and people were infecting each other, not even knowing what it was first, or how it spread. So I do believe moving forward, a lot of the mistakes that were made, and we'll put aside, the mistakes that may be involved in, in law enforcement and civil issues. Obviously, those are the most serious. But there also were a lot of mistakes made in terms of just how to operate. And moving forward, I believe that our health department, in conjunction with local health departments, there's going to be much better responses if we ever have to deal with this again. Okay, the first issue is making sure, because we could have another pandemic, there could be another virus. So making sure number one, that there is the isolation of folks, so that when people go to a hospital, they are isolated in a where it's possible, in a section of the hospital, to protect the rest of the patients and staff. There are also COVID-related hospitals, COVID-only nursing homes. That's got to be part of the process. When I say COVID, it could be, unfortunately, some other viral disease, infectious disease.
Take a quick step back to the original question about Governor Cuomo. Have you seen evidence, or I'm sure you've heard what we've heard in terms of accusations of a cover-up of the numbers of deaths in nursing homes. That obviously is troubling from the outside.
Yes, there's no question. That's going to be, has been and will continue to be a major part of our investigations moving forward. And the first priority is to making sure we're fixing the problem moving forward. The second part is making sure that everybody is being held responsible. And obviously the U.S. Attorney's Office is looking at the issue and the allegations of basically information being withheld from the public, from the state legislature itself. So
Right.
those are extremely troubling. You have the other issue that there were reports that were submitted, by the health department concerning some of the nursing home numbers that were then, amended and tweaked by the executive branch before they were released. We're investigating, that's being investigated as well. The response now is they're saying that's part of the normal process, that the executive branch, always before a report is finally issued, will review it and make some tweaks. That's fine if we're talking about grammar and language and even tone, perhaps based on this certain circumstance. But if you're actually changing factual information, then that's going to be part of the investigation moving forward as well.
This has been a topic of conversation now, not just for days or weeks, but even for months, that the concerns about the way people in nursing homes were redirected to go back to nursing homes when they had positive COVID tests and COVID symptoms. What is it now that has reached critical mass for the Senate and for legislature to take action or to make the kind of recommendation you made today, which is that Governor Cuomo should step aside amid all of this, respond to all of the accusations, and then perhaps, depending on how things play out, we'll see how that goes. But what is it about now that finally has either produced sufficient evidence to give people like you, who are a part of the Democratic Party as well, the initiative to say, okay, well, it's finally time that there's enough noise, there's enough information. What brought this critical mass of, to Democrats that they finally have started to say in more and more voices, Cuomo needs to step aside?
Well, certainly the nursing home issue has been, extremely disturbing, and we have been addressing that for quite a while. But the numerous allegations that now have come out from a variety of individuals, women, and these are credible and very serious and very disturbing allegations. And I believe it is vitally important that they be treated that way. And I have utmost confidence in the New York State Attorney General, Tish James, to make sure that, number one, she is giving every single person coming forward the opportunity to be heard, and follow, and then we'll obviously follow the facts, and whatever the final determination is and recommendations are, that will come out of her report. Simultaneously, now we have the New York State Assembly through the Judiciary Committee, which happens to be chaired by my colleague Chuck Levine, who represents part of my district. They have an obligation under the New York State Constitution to conduct this investigation because the impeachment process begins with the State Assembly, just like it begins in Washington with the House of Representatives. So that process is beginning there, and we also have the situation that I don't know what ultimately they're going to do. They're going to conduct an investigation. Whether or not they decide to issue articles of impeachment, that will be up to them based on whatever their procedures and whatever facts there are going forward. And in the event they do, it then goes to the state Senate, where the members of the state Senate will serve as jurors alongside the 9 members of the New York State Court of Appeals. It's kind of unique. The judges will sit alongside us. So that this is a very serious time, and that's why myself and my other majority colleagues from Long Island today said, regardless of anything else, the governor needs to step aside The state constitution gives him the ability to step aside, transfer powers over to the lieutenant governor. And then the lieutenant governor will have the full power to act as governor. Title would be acting governor, to allow all these proceedings to move forward. But it's now we're trying to negotiate a budget, which has to be done in 2 weeks. We obviously have so many COVID issues we have to deal with. We did give the governor emergency powers in the beginning, additional powers beyond what he already had as chief executive pursuant to the law, pursuant to the state constitution, because directives had to be issued immediately to deal with a lot of these problems. We're way beyond that now. So we have withdrawn those, we've taken that directive power away from them. But that also means now that anything new that has to happen, we as a legislature have to quickly put together legislation, have it adopted, and have it signed by a governor.
So if the urgency is pretty high, do you think this all moves along very quickly? Do you see a possible
Do you think of what is high? I couldn't hear you, Dan.
of this? I mean, you're talking about a budget in 2 weeks. If the timing, if the need for a acting governor or the governor to sign off on a budget is 2 weeks away, is it likely now that if there is the need for an impeachment, because it doesn't seem like Governor Cuomo has any intention of stepping aside I think he issued a statement today to that effect, that there will be no immediate transfer of power. Will the impeachment process proceed at a relatively brisk pace now to begin and maybe conclude before the budget is signed in 2 weeks?
That would not be a question for me. That would be a question for the member of the assembly, because I don't know how quickly they are going to be proceeding. Logically, you would think that that's probably something that cannot be wrapped up in 2 weeks, because there are a lot of issues to deal with, and again, the information would be provided to the committee, and there also has to be sensitivity to the fact that the Attorney General is conducting an examination as well, and so I'm sure knowing Chuck Levine as chair and the members of the committee, that they're going to obviously be very cautious to make sure that they're not interfering at all with what the Attorney General is doing. So you're right. If the governor does not step aside, then we have to negotiate a budget and move forward with him as governor.
Given all the noise surrounding this right now and all of the other issues that the politicians like you have to deal with in terms of COVID, in terms of relief coming to the state, is there any concern that you have that the public might not have confidence that the focus is on the correct items? Obviously, if the governor is defending himself against accusations, will he be able to effectively act as governor? Clearly, if you thought so, you wouldn't be urging him to step aside. So are there checks and balances in place? And also, are there enough people focused on the kinds of questions that will keep Long Islanders and New Yorkers safe in the context of a ever-changing COVID environment?
Well, I mean, the big issue is we have to adopt the budget within the next 2 weeks, because that impacts everything we're doing as it relates to COVID, including rolling out the vaccines, making sure there as much money as possible to get the economy moving again, assistance to small businesses, implementing the federal funds, that unrestricted funds that are coming to the state. We have to implement those funds through the budgetary process. We also have to supplement them to some extent, because not everything is covered by the federal money, and they do have some kind of technical some sort of technical issues with where some of the money can be spent. For example, one of the things that we are trying to very much fund, perhaps through this budget, is pre-K for all school districts on Long Island. Right now, not all school districts have it, and people in the city of New York do. They've had for years. But that's something where we may not be able to use the federal money, so then we may have to offset that with money from another source. And so, but that's all part of the the normal budgetary process. But a lot of the COVID issues now, as we're moving forward, are being delegated to the local governments, which I think is a good thing. The local county health departments are very actively implementing the vaccines. The pharmacies are out there. The big issue now is to meet President Biden's new mandate that it's going to be available for every American, obviously then of course every New Yorker who wants it, by May 1st. So it's important for us to make sure that we have the bandwidth in this state to get that delivered. The problem with the vaccines, which has been a disaster, to quite an extent, to be honest with you, much of which is the lack of a supply. So my listening to the President of the United States last night, and what I'm starting to see and what I'm hearing, from the health department, is that there's going to be a massive increase in the volume of vaccines that are coming to the states. So our problem has not been able, to be able to deliver the vaccine to everyone. The problem is there haven't been enough vaccines, and you've had, 10 times people more eligible for the vaccine than there is the actual vial available. So I believe the state, will meet the challenge regardless.
By May 1st, that deadline is realistic.
Yeah, as long, well, by May 1st, having enough, volume, which means that by May 1st, the pipeline is complete, but then it's going to take a while to get everybody, the vaccine. The president made it clear last night that not everyone's going to be vaccinated by May 1st, that the federal government will get enough vaccines out to the states by May 1st. So if on May 1st, the vaccines are all there, then the rest of them are going to have to be rolled out after that. And it may, take a while to have them, distributed. You obviously want to make sure it is done, as efficiently and as quickly as possible.
I have one more question about Governor Cuomo, and then I have a whole bunch of other questions related to some similar topics that you've already started to address. And that is, I know that Governor Cuomo was present at your first swearing-in ceremony as a state senator. I know that you've worked with him in the past. Is this a difficult position for you to be in, to be asking him to step aside amid these investigations? How does this affect you?
Oh yeah, no, it is. Obviously it is difficult because I've known the governor for quite a while, and the governor has done a lot of great things for this state. And I knew his father very well. He was one of our greatest governors. It is extremely difficult, but my obligation is to the people I represent in the 5th District and the people of the state to try to do what is in the best interest of everybody moving forward. So it is, it is not something that it doesn't bring me a lot of pain, but my obligation is the folks that I represent. But at the same time, the allegations that have been made that are very credible from members, of the executive chamber and others are, have to be fully reviewed, and it is quite disturbing.
Okay. Going on to a few other topics. I know that you're probably aware that a whole bunch of other states have now loosened mask mandates. They've also reduced or eliminated all capacity limits. There might be baseball stadiums like in Texas and Arlington that are filled to capacity. Are you, as a New Yorker, concerned about people from some of those states coming into New York? And would you hope that either the governor or lieutenant governor or a legislature would come up with a way of safeguarding the people of New York in the event that there are super spreader events that this spring and summer, before the vaccinations, enough people have received the vaccinations to tamp down the possible spread?
Well, again, President Biden said last night spoke in terms of the fact that he's looking forward to July 4th being the time where, with some limitations, obviously, people can start celebrating with their families and friends in in backyards. And that is a great and wonderful goal. And I hope that we get there. We are so close. We are so close to seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. We're clearly not there yet, but we are so close. And the worst thing that we can do as a country and as a state is to just start regressing now. I mean, look at how well we were doing, and then people started coming in from other states, and then we went, right back to where we were and even worse. And of course, some of this had to do with, at least scientists will tell you, with the change in the temperature and the season. But we don't want to go back there at all. That would just be so much more pain for our school system, for our businesses, and most importantly, deaths. This results in people dying. And we've all known people who have died because of this. And it's not just old, folks who are older, like myself or older than myself. The young people have been dying. So we just don't want to go back there. Now, I do believe that we should reopen, as quickly as we can. And yes, probably take some risks as we open up more, with perhaps allowing some church, synagogue carnivals to go forward, some types of community events here and there. I believe we do need to open up, and yes, to some extent that is going to be taking risks. But again, I think more of this should be decided at the local levels, where the percent of people infection rates are being monitored. But I think just say nobody has to wear a mask, nobody has to social distance, just pretend none of this ever happened, is just going to get us into trouble. I mean, and what is the big deal about wearing a mask? I mean, I just don't get it. What is the big deal? Wear the mask. I think you're going to see that long after this is over, you're still going to see a lot of people wearing masks. I mean, if you think of it, if you feel that maybe you have a cold or something coming down and you're going to work, maybe you should wear a mask. We've already seen that so many people did not catch, other types of ailments because they were wearing a mask. So let's all wear a mask until we clearly know, we can move forward. And also, by the way, but wearing a mask doesn't mean that you can't participate, that we can't have baseball games, that we can't have, concerts, that we can't do all of this. But you can wear the mask when you're attending these events.
When the infection rate was so different in different states, there were limitations that the governors of New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut placed on people coming in from some of the states where the infection rate was considered potentially dangerous, potentially higher. Clearly, if some states move much more rapidly into reopening and taking the risks you just described than New York does New York have the same responsibility as it had before to tamp down on that, or to protect people by establishing a similar quarantine mandate or quarantine requirement?
People come at us from another state. Well, I guess we'll have to look at that if the rates in these other states just start skyrocketing again, just like, at the federal level, we had to be concerned at the beginning, especially with people coming in from, from other countries. Yeah, I mean, we'll have to look at that, but we also are in a different place. People are getting vaccinated. The immunities are there. While we don't know all the facts and circumstances about how well protected you are from the vaccination, I listen to, the talking heads, doctors, Dr. Fauci and everyone else on the screens, and sometimes you almost have to read between the lines, but it does seem that you get vaccinated and two vaccinated people are together and they should be okay. And if a family is all vaccinated, everybody should be okay. We also obviously have the issue that people under 16, are not getting vaccinated, and because it's not just being done. And secondly, there have been no trials that have occurred. But also, these are the folks that where the impact is the least in terms of, health concerns. Uh, but I think, we sort of have two things going on at once. You have the cases declining and then the people getting vaccines. And I think everything is moving in the right direction. And I'm pretty hopeful that we'll be okay moving forward, unless everybody just starts, totally, throwing everything out the window. And we got to make sure to also look at these new strains and everything that's coming into place. That's very, very concerning. But I never want to get back to where we were before.
So I know that you, Warren, did not make the cut for the first vaccination because you're under 65. I know you do make the cut for the second vaccine, now the over 60 round. Have you scheduled your own vaccination? Have you?
Well, actually, I did make the cut in the people who have pre-existing medical conditions, because I do have severe asthma that I've been treated for since I'm a teenager, and I take 3 different medications a day for that. So I actually went online, and it took me about a week, but I was able to get my vaccine this Tuesday in Utica, New York, which was about an hour and a half outside of Albany. So I, before the session starts, I got an appointment in the morning, and so I got my first shot. I'll be going back there in 3 weeks, so I am, a few days vaccinated with the first dose, which what everybody tells me doesn't mean anything. You just got to keep waiting, and then you'll have a certain level of immunity, I guess, in about 14 to 20 days, and then I'll have my second shot. And then I guess a couple of weeks after that, I should be fully immune.
It seems so. Congratulations on getting your first shot. I'm sure with an underlying medical condition that was always a concern. I know you and I have talked about that before in terms of your own health. It seems that given that the people in the country are, as you described, are spending a week trying to get on calls, driving an hour and a half, there is enormous built-in inefficiencies in this process.
Yep.
Get the shot to create herd immunity. Are you hoping over time, as more vaccines are available, that there'll be answering phones, scheduling appointments, getting appointments?
Well, yeah, I think it's the volume. I think one of the mistakes that was probably made, look, some different states did things differently. There are some states now that are still vaccinating just teachers, as opposed to vaccinating populations of 65, and over. And, we started at 75 and over. And then ironically, when I walked out of the college campus where I got my vaccination, the second I walked out, I looked at my phone and I got a text from a member of my staff that said an order was just issued allowing everybody 60 and older to get the vaccine. So, and I witnessed, the absolute disaster myself, just trying to get the vaccine myself. I kept refreshing. And then I realized that Potsdam and Utica were the 2 places where you can pretty much get it if you just kept, and that took me a week. Right. And so I have the luxury of going to Albany every week. And so it was an hour and a half, right? It was a very nice ride. But we can't have that moving forward. But again, if the Biden administration is giving us the volumes that we weren't giving from the previous administration, and we didn't get, at the beginning of the year where they was just trying to, get the vaccines moving, we shouldn't have a problem. The system is in place. It's just that the vaccines weren't there. Too many people were put into the categories at once, it seemed.
All right, and now I don't know if you've seen it, but today, County Executive Steve Bellone and the Suffolk County Police Department released a report on how to improve the relations between the police and the community. And there were a number of suggestions in there, including the use of body cams for every officer.
Right.
Seen the report at all? Do you have?
I have not seen, read the report before at all. I've seen some, news accounts of it. And I believe that, this whole process is a very good, healthy process for every community to examine its relationship between the citizens and the police department that it serves, and, and having some very difficult conversations. I think that's good. On the issue of body cams, I actually voted to require body cams for all members of the New York State Police, because that's the only police department that, as a state legislator, I have any direct authority over. I think they're a very good tool. And so many police officers I have spoken to, they have said to me, that it's, they like wearing them as well, because it gives them, protection, as to exactly what the events were that took place, to the extent the body cam, is able to show that. So, and obviously it's an important tool moving forward as part of these conversations. So I think they're good, to have, and so I think that's a good step if that's the recommendation.
It is. Are there any specific changes in addition to body cam for all the officers that you'd like to see, or that you were a part of? Has anyone brought to your attention?
Well, what I would like to see is a lot more community relations between the police departments and the citizens that are served, and programs to work with that. One of the things that I have sponsored in the legislature is a program for Huntington that is an anti-gang program. And what it does is a mentoring program. It involves having volunteers who actually go and try to mentor mostly young men, but some young women as well, from not joining gangs. And in some cases, it's just talking to a sibling of somebody who's, a child who's, or a young person whose sibling is already in a gang. And just to try to, to break that, because, these gangs come in, they try to recruit people. And so part of, fighting gangs and crime created by gangs is to stop the gangs themselves and stop the recruitment. And so this program is working, very well. And there are, Suffolk County police officers who are mentors, who volunteer with this program. Many cases, it's as simple as playing basketball with some young folks, and just showing that, we're here to serve, we're here to protect you, and we're part of the community as well. So I think we need more of that dialogue during the the height of the pandemic, and of course we're still there, and there's still a lot of food insecurity. But I went to some food banks, and they were drive-by food banks where the police officers were, assisting with the food bank and working with communities, including some communities that have our newer immigrant folks coming in, and and in fact talking to some of the police officers. It was like, this is important because it is showing that they're here to serve, they're here to help. The overwhelming majority of our police officers want to do the right thing and do the right thing every day and put themselves in harm's way, and you never know when they might not come home to their families. But yes, there are some bad actors that have to be dealt with, and there are also some systemic issues that we've addressed through the state legislature that I think are being addressed through these reports, and I think need to be implemented locally.
Okay, and one, I know education is a top of mind for you on any given day, and I know that this year, ever since March of last year through now, that education has had innumerable challenges in the context of COVID. What are your thoughts or your hopes for education going forward? Do you expect education to return to some level of normal in the fall of this year? And might there be a vaccination requirement either for students or teachers in order to ensure that the environment, academic environment that people are returning to and that they might bring back to their families is safe. How does
Right.
education work in the fall of this year?
Well, again, as long as we continue to move forward safely, I fully expect us to have everybody back in the classroom in the fall. And many of the school districts are doing, they're starting to do that now and have already done that. Some for, for more the elementary grades and not as much for the, for high schools. But most of them are moving back to that already. Look, I don't think there's any plans at this point to require vaccinations of students, 16 and under, simply because that hasn't been tested. So we don't know the impact on younger people. So for that reason alone, it's not going to happen. The second thing is, it is my hope that you're going to get the vast majority of citizens, above 16 who are going to get the vaccination. And part of government's role, and we saw yesterday a commercial rolling out with most of the former presidents and first ladies of the United States, including Jimmy Carter, who looked great for his age, encouraging people to take the vaccine, particularly encouraging folks in communities of color where where this country has had it's awful. Some of the criminal acts that occurred in the past in terms of testing of folks in some African American studies and communities in the past, and so there's obviously a real understanding and concern because of that deep dark stain on our nation. And that's why I think it's important for role models and governments in terms of even spending money to promote the vaccine. And I also think that deep down, almost everybody realizes that this is something really dangerous that could kill you. And if there's a vaccine out there, I'm going to go get it. So I think we're going to get there. I don't believe that we're going to need any policies in place, to mandate anything. I also believe that you're going to have most people are going to get it, and that we also have to see the science and to see with the vast majority of people having it how we operate as a science. There may be some issues moving forward, for example, with companies. Companies might want to establish policies requiring it because there's liabilities. So, we may have to address some of those issues moving forward, but it's my hope right now that just the promotion and people being smart and doing it will get the protections in society that we need.
The numbers that I hear among the Black and brown communities aren't anywhere near what they are in the white communities, and that what you're describing in terms of the benefit of the vaccine is something people talk about, and people like Dr. Fauci and others talk about, but the impact even among the medical care community. I mean,
yes,
medical workers, there's still a huge disparity between what percent of white medical workers or healthcare workers are getting the vaccine.
Right. I am actually kind of concerned about that because I've had discussions with folks in my district who are in the medical, field, folks in the education field, and in some cases the alarming percent of people that just don't want to get the vaccine. I think there's smaller percent than folks that are saying, well, I want to wait a little bit. I want to see, so. That's a natural, that's a natural human reaction as well. But we do need to, folks do need to get vaccinated.
Well, good. Well, listen, thank you very much for addressing so many issues. Obviously, you've got a lot on your plate these days. I appreciate you taking the time. We've been speaking with Senator Gaughran about a host of issues, and good luck the rest of the way. Good luck the rest of the year.
Thank you for having me, Dan.